Hey guys, it's Bailey from Making Up the Midwest, and rather than doing a top 5 video of products I love, this video is going to be about products that I would leave. So typically when I review products, I try and find one quality. Even if it doesn't work for me, I try and find something that I think can be universally beneficial or that one person will like, because I realize that sometimes something that doesn't work for me works wonderfully for somebody else. However, the products I'm going to mention in this video, I really couldn't find enough redeeming factors in them to be something that I would recommend to someone if they asked. So if you want to find out what products those are, let's get into it. First product I want to talk about is the NYX Natural Eyeshadow Palette, and at first glance it kind of looks like it might be similar to the Naked Basics palette, which is what drew me to it, because any excuse to find an affordable dupe for an Urban Decay palette I'm all about that. Unfortunately, it's nowhere near that kind of quality. What looks like should be 6 very wearable everyday shadows are just, there's no color payoff, they're very chalky. I mean, 3 of these shadows, when you actually wear them on the lid, look at that, that's like embarrassing. There's no pigmentation there, but basically at least 3 of these shadows, when I actually wore them on my lid, they looked exactly the same. So it's virtually like having a very poorly performing quad or trio on your hands, because you really can't discern half of the shades in this palette as being different from one another. So this, even though it's an affordable palette, is still not worth it in my opinion. There are other neutral eyeshadow palettes out there that are just as affordable but perform way better. The next 2 products I'm going to talk about fall in the same category. They're both brightening concealers, so that's why I'm lumping them together. This is the Physicians Formula Super BB All-in-One Beauty Balm Concealer, and the other one is the Flower Beauty Lighten Up Brightening Concealer. This is the Drew Barrymore line, and for one reason or another, these just underperform. They're very underwhelming as concealers and brighteners. First, I'll talk about the Flower by Drew Barrymore. It does a decent job at concealing, and the tone is right. I just didn't notice it being very brightening, and the wear time was really poor on my skin. I just noticed it faded really quickly during the day, and I need something that's going to stand up to the test of time when it comes to concealers, and brightening concealers at that, because nothing is worse than looking in the mirror midday and seeing dark circles under your eye because your concealer failed. So this was not for me. And then the Physicians Formula product, on the other hand, kind of failed on all counts. I didn't notice it brightened or concealed, and in reality it makes a ton of claims. It has like 10 different claims on the packaging, some of which include minimizing fine lines and depuffing. I just did not think it performed, and part of the reason, especially for the brightening aspect, is that it doesn't get light enough. This is the lightest shade it comes in of the 2 that are available. This is light medium, and it's kind of hard for a product to brighten if it doesn't have a color correcting base like a salmony shade. This is very flesh tone, and it's just not light enough to brighten up my under eye area. So that's one way in which I felt it kind of missed the mark. But additionally, I didn't notice depuffing or fine line minimizing. I didn't notice any of those qualities about it. So it just, and considering this is about $12 or $13 a piece, I think there are other brightening concealers out there that perform much better, but for about half the price. For instance, the Maybelline Fit Me foundation, or Fit Me concealer, I think performs beautifully, does both beautifully, and does it for about half the price. So choose this, not that. Alright, now I have a few Revlon products, the first of which are the Photo Ready Sculpting Blush Palettes, and I believe I have all of these. I got them actually at the Allure Beauty Blogger Awards, so I do have experience with all of them, and I have been really underwhelmed with each of them, mostly because of the pigmentation. The texture isn't fabulous. I don't really love the texture, but texture is something I can work with. The color payoff of these is just really underwhelming. They really don't show up, especially this as a bronzer slash contour. It's matte, so it could very well be a contour, but it just doesn't show up, and that was really disappointing because this has the makings to be the perfect all-in-one face powder palette. But I mean, the pigmentation is just really not good. And this is the palette in Pink Rose, which is kind of more on the brighter shade of this line, whereas something like Peach just wouldn't show up at all on my skin, and I have a fairly fair skin tone, and so I can only imagine what these look like on deeper skin tones. I'm sure they come off more ashy or just non-existent. So I really would leave these, especially when Revlon does make some stellar face products, like that matte bronzer, I forget what that's called, and then they have their cream blushes, which are stellar. Love those. When Revlon makes products like those, there is no need to waste your time with these. Leave them. The other Revlon product I'm not so sweet on are the Color Stay Quads, the 16-hour eyeshadow quads. This one in particular is in Delightful. Again, I got these in the Allure Beauty Blogger Awards, so I got to sample quite a few of them. And at the time when I first got them, I wasn't impressed, but they were decent shadows. I thought that they were a little grainy. They weren't as smooth as I thought they could be, but the color payoff was decent, and there was some chalkiness with some of them, but you know, they didn't sway me either way. Then Revlon came out with their primer and shadow. I've done tutorials and reviews with a few of these palettes, and it just made me realize how poor these were. So, and I've said this before, if you're gonna buy an eyeshadow from Revlon, it's gonna be these and not these, because these are buttery and smooth and pigmented and they stay. These not so much. So if you're going to spend money on eyeshadow and you want to spend them on a Revlon eyeshadow, go with these, leave these. The last two products are really more about the packaging and less about the quality of the product inside. The first of which is this NYC Sparkle Eye Dust, which I believe they repackaged. I don't think this is a new formula. I just think they took them from what was a larger pot with a rinky-dink brush to something with a doe foot applicator, and I almost hesitate to open this up because it is so messy. Let me grab a tissue because ugh. So you open it up and you can just see the powder falling everywhere. It makes such a mess. Now the product inside is really, really gorgeous. This is actually shimmery champagne called Golden Champagne. It's very smooth, it's very pigmented. I mean, it wears really well, but when there are other similar products in the drugstore between the Color Tattoo Pure Pigments or just another champagne eyeshadow, I'm never going to reach for this if it means that I have to prep my space with, you know, cleanup utensils and I'm going to mess with a ton of fallout. I'll just never reach for this. And so that's, unfortunately, can be a huge deterrent for any product, is the packaging. If it's inconvenient, I'll leave it over loving it. So, and then the last product, again, packaging fail more so than a product fail, is the Wet n Wild Waterproof Liquid Eyeliner. The eyeliner itself wears beautifully throughout the day. It doesn't flake, it doesn't smudge, it takes some work to get off. But the applicator is a pointed felt tip applicator, which I find can be harsh on my upper lash line, depending on if if my skin's feeling particularly sensitive, it doesn't really jive with me then. But also it just applies unevenly. Wherever I find the felt tip actually touches the skin, there can often be a line where the product doesn't get laid down and rather it gets pushed to the side. So it just lays it down unevenly, and I find I have to go over multiple times, which seems like a very minor gripe, but when the applicator is as kind of harsh and itchy as it is, it just doesn't jive well with me. So luckily for this one, if you really do want this product, and it is a very affordable product, you can get your own kind of liner brush, like one here, and just take it out, maybe even snip the tip off and just dip your brush directly in it and apply it like you would any other liquid eyeliner. But there's something to be said for a product that you can just use and love as is without having to finagle different applicators and all that kind of stuff. So not my biggest leave, but if given the choice between this or recommending this versus another liquid eyeliner from the drugstore, I'd probably go with another one just because it's less of a hassle. So that is all from me. I hope you guys enjoyed learning about the products that I would leave, and I'd love to hear what products you are not feeling. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.